Good evening from London and good evening from the SONGUN007 YouTube channel, and good evening from me, Dr. Dermot Hudson, Chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK and Chairman of the British Group for the Study of the Juche idea. Welcome to our 39th live stream. I hope everybody can hear me. As usual, I'll talk for about half an hour, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit less, about some different subjects, and then I will pick up questions from the chat. We will run for about a minimum of 1 hour, possibly a bit longer. So anyway, there's on these live streams, there's always plenty to talk about. So originally, I'd planned to talk about the DPRK abolishing taxation back in 1974, about the historic land reform, and about the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. But someone raised the subject of the elections in the DPRK to the Supreme People's Assembly. So I'm going to start off with that topic and then move on to the other subjects. And so originally, when I'd planned this live stream, the SPA elections had not been announced. And I've moved the date of this live stream back to avoid clashing with a KFA Germany event last week. So we're running a bit about a week later than usual. Hopefully we should have the next live stream in about 2 weeks. Anyway, so you've had the great event of the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea, and now you've got the elections to the Supreme People's Assembly, which of course is the DPRK's law-making body. It is the supreme organ of power in the DPRK. And it was on the 3rd of March that the Standing Committee of the Supreme People's Assembly announced that there would be the election of deputies to the 15th Supreme People's Assembly on March 15th, 2026, in accordance with Article 90 of the Constitution of the DPRK. And then they appointed a Central Election Committee, which consisted of representatives of the party, the trade unions, Socialist Women's Union, Union of Agricultural Workers, and the Youth League. And this is one of the ways in which the elections to the Supreme People's Assembly are very, very different to Western bourgeois elections, which are held up by the mainstream media as an example of democracy, etc., etc. But I would pose the question with regard to elections in capitalist countries. Do they really improve people's lives? Is my life any better because the government changed from Rishi Sunak to Keir Starmer? Is it any better? Well, I think there's a very obvious answer to that, and that is basically no. Anyway, back to the subject of the elections to the Supreme People's Assembly in the DPRK. They're going to take place in a couple of days' time on Sunday 15th, in which all DPRK electors will vote in the elections. And usually the DPRK has 100% turnout. And again, this is very different to bourgeois or capitalist elections, where often only 60% of the electorate actually vote, or even less. And indeed, in the case of some local authority elections in the UK, only 20% of the electorate have voted. And of course, in capitalist countries, people are excluded from the electoral registers for various reasons, mainly property qualifications in some capitalist countries. Poor people and homeless people are denied the right to vote in capitalist countries. And I believe in, someone's probably going to comment on this, I'm sure there is still one US state that excludes Black people from voting, because for a very long time, Black people were excluded from voting in US elections, just like in the 6 counties of Northern Ireland, Catholics were excluded from voting for a very long time. But in the DPRK, all people over the age of 17 can vote in elections and also have the right to be elected. So there's been quite a lot of activity around the elections in the DPRK. Voters' meetings have taken place in the DPRK. Electors have examined the qualifications of the candidates to the SPA elections, assessing whether they're the best person for the job. And of course, again, this is very, very different to elections in capitalist countries, which are basically an undignified competition of money, basically about deciding who is going to get the MP salary. Instead, in people's career, it is about finding the best candidate to represent them, and it is based on the ability of the candidates to represent the electors. And of course, in the DPRK electors have the right to recall deputies if they failed to carry out their mandate. And another element of the superiority of the Juche-based People's Democratic election system in people's career is that in people's career, you don't have a class of professional politicians like you do in the West. Deputies to the Supreme People's Assembly actually can continue to do their day jobs once they are elected. They continue in their ordinary jobs, and they just receive the salary from their normal job. They don't get paid an extra salary for being a deputy to the Supreme People's Assembly or to a local People's Assembly. They're not paid. They're getting the average the average salary from their job. And of course, Yeah, about a week or two ago, there was a great kerfuffle in Britain about a Green Party candidate getting elected, and she was apparently a self-employed plumber, and she apologised to her customers. Yeah, saying that she wouldn't be able to do any work because she'd be in Parliament. So, I mean, that is another big difference, and of course, in people's career, you have ordinary people elected as deputies to the Supreme People's Assembly and organs of power at all levels. There is even like a humble street cleaner in the DPRK, a woman street cleaner who was elected to the Supreme People's Assembly, a female trolley bus driver who was elected to a local People's Assembly. Now, I think you'd be very hard pressed to find any workers, actual real workers in the British Parliament or in the US Congress. I think probably if there were any, you probably could count them on the fingers of one hand. So that's another superiority of the DPRK's electoral system. And another sort of argument thrown against the DPRK, these people say, "Ooh, but what about opposition parties, etc.?" Well, these don't exist in the DPRK. It's not actually a single party system. You have, you have, in addition to the Workers' Party of Korea, you have the Korean Social Democratic Party, and you have the Cheongju Party, or Heavenly Way Believers Party, that approximately translates into. But yeah, you don't have opposition parties. And the reason is quite simple, is because there isn't a basis for them. There's no antagonistic classes or strata in the DPRK. There's no capitalist ownership of the means of production. So there's no social and economic basis for bourgeois parties. And someone's quite rightly put "Nothing But Truth" one as good evening to you, by the way, as rightly put, in capitalist countries, you don't get to vote who gets to be billionaire. Well, that is true. We don't elect the owners of the big capitalist monopolies. We don't elect landlords. No one elected Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, a pet hate of mine, censoring Facebook, deleting Facebook pages. Well, who the hell elected him? The answer is no one. And yes, money is power. As I said, elections in capitalist countries are a competition of money. Whoever is got the most money is able to get elected. In fact, in Britain, I don't know about the US or some of the other countries who might be on this, listening in on this live stream, but I know in Britain, to stand for election, you've got to pay a deposit of £1,000, which of course stops smaller parties and independent candidates from standing. And if my memory serves me rightly, I think Lenin once said, basically elections in capitalist countries were about deciding who will exploit and oppress us for the next 5 years. So I think that sums it up. So anyway, the SPA elections will go ahead on Sunday. It will be a demonstration of the single-hearted unity of the DPRK and an example of socialist democracy, people's democracy in action. Yes, that's a fair point from username 03KE. Yeah, in rich countries, rich people become politicians. And in poor countries, politicians become rich people. Well, yes, I've heard that remark from some Brazilian friends, aimed at one or two people like Mr. Lula, for example. I think Sunday, March 15th, will be a great day, and the new Supreme People's Assembly, the 15th term Supreme People's Assembly, will be elected, and it will map out policies in line with the policies decided at the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. And just to say that to people who've just joined, I will answer your questions when I stop speaking. So don't worry, I will answer the questions. So on to the other subject, and I thought about making a separate video about it, but I thought, well, I'll chat about it during the live stream. And in about a week's time, March 21st, it will be the 52nd anniversary of the abolition of taxation in People's Korea. It was back in March 1974 that President Kim Il-sung had the Supreme People's Assembly adopt the law on the abolition of taxation, and from the 1st of April 1974, all taxes were abolished in People's Korea. And at the same time, they also instituted very substantial price cuts of up to 50% and 30% on average, great boost in living standards. And I say, we all say that in life there are two certainties, death and taxes, and certainly in Britain, taxes are rising. For example, my local council tax is going to go up by nearly 5%. I think last year it went up by 5%. So it just goes up and up and up. I think I'm paying £50 a month more council tax than I was about 10 years ago. It's just crazy, and all the time services are being cut. Now, some people, perhaps it's a genuine question, or perhaps it's cynicism, say, but how can People's Korea have abolished taxation, and how can it at the same time maintain such a high level of social and public services, such as free housing? People say, oh, this can't add up. And, indeed, in the West, any kind of social program has always been funded by taxation. In other words, the workers are actually paying for the services they're actually meant to benefit from, which again is crazy and is a swindle. But and also, the arguments from a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people who don't vote Labour, they just put the tax up when they get in power. So, how was People's Career able to abolish taxes and at the same time increase social and public spending and actually have a much higher level of social provision than Western countries? How was this done? And the simple answer is that the revenues of state-owned industries are used for the good of the people. They are used to fund public spending. It's as simple as that. The DPRK has a 100% socialist economy where all major industry is state-owned, all people ownership. Some farms are also state-owned, and the profits from there go to the state and are used to fund the state budget. That's how the DPRK has been able to achieve this, but also because of the people-orientated policy and the Juche idea, because some socialist countries didn't abolish taxes, but the DPRK identified taxation as a leftover, hangover from the former exploiting society. And in 1961, the Fourth Congress, the Workers' Party of Korea, adopted a decision to abolish taxation. So in the 1960s, the agricultural tax in kind was abolished first of all. So after that, the only taxes that remained were income tax on workers and so-called local autonomy tax, which does sound a bit like council tax in Britain, doesn't it? And so those remained, and taxation only accounted for 2% of state revenue. And so basically by 1974, it was decided that there was conditions to abolish taxation, and it's all in this booklet here about the successful solution of the tax problem in Korea. And I think there is a PDF of that booklet online somewhere, which you can sort of download and read. So on to the other two subjects. Last week, 5th of March, marked the 80th anniversary of the Agrarian Reform in People's Career, and it was on the 5th of March 1946 that the Agrarian Reform was carried out, and it was carried out at a very fast speed. It was carried out within 20 days, and basically all land owned by absentee landlords or over 5 hectares in size was confiscated, and they emphasise confiscated, without compensation being paid to the former landlords. And it was distributed to the people free of charge. Thus, 1 million hectares of land that had been possessed by the Japanese imperialists and their stooges and by landlords was distributed to poor peasants and farmhands of, and a total of 720,000 households benefited from this. And unlike other countries, including some socialist countries, there was zero compensation for former landlords, and the land was distributed to peasants free of charge completely. And some socialist countries, for instance, in Romania, the peasants, the farmers had to pay a small fee for the land, but in People's Korea it was 100% free. And some neo-colonial countries miserably failed to carry out land reform in the interests of the ordinary people. For example, in Kenya, East African country, the willing seller, willing buyer principle was enforced, meaning that the land owned by the former colonialists, the white farmers, actually remained in their hands. So thus, in People's Korea, feudalism and landlordism was eliminated at one stroke instead of a series of minor piecemeal reforms. Centuries of exploitation and oppression by feudal landlords just vanished within weeks, and the working farmers, the poor peasants of the northern half of Korea, became masters of land and masters of their fate. The Agrarian Reform paved the way for the socialist transformation of agriculture after the Fatherland Liberation War in the 1950s. As a result, People's Korea is a socialist country and one of the most egalitarian countries in the world. Everything is owned by the people, and there are no richer and poor. There is free medical care, free education, and free housing. Income differentials are low, probably the lowest in the world. Many countries, even developed ones, have failed to achieve a far-reaching and fundamental land reform. In the UK today, it is the fact that most of the land is owned by big landlords, monopoly capitalist corporations, property companies and banks. A Guardian article from 2019 stated that in the UK, half of the land is owned by less than 1% of the population. And in Britain, the quasi-feudal leasehold system remains in urban areas, but in People's Korea, it was totally all kinds of landlordism and feudalism were totally abolished completely. So on to the subject of the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. That has been held. It closed about 2 weeks ago. It lasted 6 days, and afterwards there was a most magnificent military parade at night in Pyongyang, and mass meetings and rallies have taken place about implementing the decisions of the Ninth Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. And I think, it's sort of very hard to summarize the decisions of the Workers' Party of Korea, of the Ninth Congress of the Workers' Party Korea. We've got a meeting about it tomorrow, an online meeting. And I made a short video about the subject, but there's quite a lot to cover. Basically, respected Comrade Kim Jong-un was re-elected as General Secretary. Comrade Kim Yo-jong was also re-elected to the Central Committee and made an alternate member of the Politburo and promoted to the position of department director. And I think, I'll just sort of concentrate on three different areas or strands, of the Congress. Firstly, it reviewed the achievements of the past 5 years, which have been truly massive. You've seen great achievements in all fields of life, particularly the rollout of the 20 by 10 development policy, the building of new housing, not just in Pyongyang, but in the countryside as well. You've seen a massive expansion of the DPRK's national defence capabilities and the granting of legal status for its nuclear deterrent. So that's one important facet of the Ninth Congress of the Workers' Party Korea. In terms of going ahead, mapping out policies for the next 5 years, I think the most significant thing is that the line of the three revolutions, ideological, technical, and cultural, was reasserted. I mean, this is the basic and fundamental line of the Workers' Party Korea, building socialism by continuing the revolution after the establishment of socialism. So you have the ideological revolution to liquidate capitalist ideology. You have the technical revolution to eliminate technical backwardness, and the cultural revolution to eliminate cultural backwardness. And those are the three revolutions, and this is going to be continued, and they're going to model people on the pattern of the working class. It's a very revolutionary line that is unique to the Workers' Party of Korea. And also there was a reference to class struggle. Comrade Kim Jong-un said that the judicial and prosecution organs must carry out the class struggle. And I think this proves that the people on Twitter keep saying that the DPRK abandoned class struggle are talking a load of complete and utter nonsense. It's not true. Class struggle is very much alive in the DPRK. They are committed to the class struggle against anti-socialist elements. And, a lot of people outside the DPRK were also looking to see what line would be taken towards the US. And I think some of the words of respected comrade Kim Jong-un were taken out of context when he said, the DPRK and US can get on well. Basically, they missed out what was said before and after that sentence. Basically, if the US scraps its hostile policy towards the DPRK, then there can be peace between the two countries. But if the US continues its line of confrontation, then they cannot be. And what Marshal Kim Jong-un actually said was the choice is not made by us. It's not. It's not made by the Korean people. It's really up to the US whether they want peace. And I think the indications of what we're seeing, what's been happening in Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba, show that the US will not change its hostile policy towards the DPRK. And of course, and the DPRK also reaffirmed its line on the Republic of Korea as being the #1 hostile state. And it said, they mustn't be fooled by any of the tricks of the current liberal regime in the South. So that's sort of a quick summing up of the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. In regards to other events, I think it's relevant to say, to talk a little bit about Iran. The US aggression against Iran is, well, it's quite unbelievable and appalling. It's an outrageous attack on a sovereign nation. The DPRK Foreign Ministry issued a statement condemning the US attack on Iran, and later said, the Iranian people must be allowed to choose their own leader. This is not a decision for the US to make, because that was aimed at Trump, who was saying that he would pick the next leader of Iran. And I say, I've participated in protests against the Iran war, and I gave a short interview to an independent YouTube channel. I will probably post that on the post sections of this channel. And so I'm sure the DPRK will stand by Iran. And in fact, I think a lot of the missiles that Iran is using are actually made in the DPRK or from based on DPRK missiles. And anyway, before I start answering the questions and comments, one last subject. Yes, the Pyongyang marathon got cancelled, and I think this is largely due to the deteriorating international situation. Certainly the US war in Iran doesn't show any sign of abating, stopping, slowing down, and the conflict could widen and spread to other parts of the world. So I think the DPRK is cautiously cancelled the marathon for that reason, and also to prevent spying and provocations by certain elements. Last year, you had a lot of bourgeois YouTubers who went in disguised as marathon tourists and were committing hostile acts against the socialist system. So anyway, I will stop there, and I'm going to go down the chat, and I hope I don't miss anyone's questions or comments, and try and pick up a few things, and maybe we go for another half hour, maybe a bit longer. Right. What did you get your doctor's title in? Well, I think I've answered that before, but it's probably new to the stream. Basically, my doctorate is in socio-politics. I wrote a thesis on the subject of in defense of Songun and people's career today. I had to defend it in front of 15 professors and assistant professors, including from Kim Il-sung University. And the doctorate was conferred on me by a DPRK vice premier at the Muncie Day Assembly Hall. And yeah, I mean, I wrote basically about the Songun policy and about the reality of the DPRK. So that's what my doctorate is in. Right. Well, that's obviously a troll, so we'll sort of delete that. Well, to answer at Captain DPRK, I don't, there's all sorts of anti-DPRK rubbish produced, and I was told that in fact the CIA and South Korean NIS are actually intensifying propaganda against the DPRK, but no one in the DPRK is a millionaire or a trillionaire or billionaire or whatever. Everything is socially owned. It is one of the most egalitarian societies in the world. Can the US say Libya? Right, okay. It seems the biggest part, okay, a serious question here. It seems the biggest part of the Korean Peninsula is covered by mountains. How can the DPRK manage agriculture in a mountain area? Do they only use plain? I think that should be spelt differently. It's hard to imagine tractors moving up and down. Well, uh, right. So that is a good question. Yeah, I mean the land in the DPRK for farming is very limited. 80% of the country is mountains. Therefore, it is very difficult managing agriculture. But these issues of limited amounts of land are solved through irrigation, through high-yielding varieties of crops, through diversification of agriculture. For instance, the potato revolution about 20 years ago, where they can grow potatoes on the highlands, on the plateaus. So that is one solution, and also by uh, using tractors that can sort of work on hillsides. But yeah, I mean there is a limited amount of uh, paddy fields in the DPRK. Right. Okay. Dermot might say you look dashing today. Who are the fellows on the pin? That is President Kim Il Sung and Chairman Kim Jong Il. And I was awarded the badge by the Korean Association of Social Scientists. Well, yeah, yeah. Well, clearly, Robin 5582 doesn't know me. Yes, as someone else has responded, yeah, I've been to the DPRK 20 times. The last time was in October 2025 for the celebrations of the 80th uh, anniversary of the foundation of the Workers' Party Korea. First ever time I went to the DPRK was 1992. I've made a couple of videos about my trips to the DPRK, and if I can find it, let's see if I mean, I've put this up about a dozen times already, but we can put it up again, I suppose. It's a free downloadable. Here we are, get a nice link there that works neatly. That book was published in 2020. Right. Yeah, you're quite right, Captain DPRK. The US wants the DPRK to denuclearize. It wants them to give all kinds of concessions, and I wonder what these talks with Cuba are really about. Are they going to try and pressure the Cubans through negotiations to give up their socialist system and become a US colony? Yeah, the new greenhouses are amazing, and I visited one in April 2024, and it was it was like something out of sci-fi, and we actually got to taste the vegetables that were produced there. Cucumbers, absolutely incredible. Well, I think this that's a bit of a silly question. Apart from the Siberian tiger, Ukrainian, if well, I don't know what that means. What other natural predators do North Koreans face? Well, I mean, DPRK, there isn't the Siberian tiger doesn't exist in the DPRK. It's the Korean tiger. There is actually a native Korean tiger, and well, I mean, I'd say the main enemy that the DPRK faces is the US imperialists and the ROK puppets. Yeah, I mean, with regard to the role of the Chinese People's Volunteers in the Fatherland Liberation War, and remember, they were volunteers, not regular troops. There is the Friendship Tower commemorating them, and their representatives have been invited to some of the major celebrations. I remember when I was in the DPRK in 2013 for the 60th anniversary of the great victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. There were Chinese delegations there. I remember seeing them. So yeah, I mean, it is acknowledged. Yeah, well, I think I'm going to have to do a video about the PhD thesis. I didn't really want to because there will be some nasty and cynical people who say, "Oh, you're talking about yourself." But yeah, I mean, maybe I can do it. I mean, I've got plans lined up for a couple of other videos. Someone asked me about doing a video on Juche and national liberation. So yeah, I'm going to do one on that subject. So I could do one about the PhD thesis. Hello, Dr. Dermot. Do you know of any DPRK academic works on economic planning utilizing AI? Well, off the top of my head, none. I suspect I mean, they will exist, but I think they'd be in Korean. I would recommend checking out the website of Kim Il Sung University, in the articles section. Maybe there you will find an article about economic planning in the DPRK and the use of AI. I think the whole issue of computers in economic planning is a very interesting one. And yeah, in the past there have been critics of socialist planning, but in fact, I think computerization uh, provided an opportunity to make socialist economic planning, socialist planning, far more effective and more efficient. And I think also AI will be a great, also will greatly improve socialist planning. But I will have a check on the Kinelsung university websites if there's anything being written about AI and socialist planning. Right, yeah, as perhaps sorry, that's the best I can do for that answer. Did you visit Pakdu Mountain during one of your visits? Yes, indeed. I went up Mount Pakdu back in August 2017. I actually went on a DPRK internal flight to Sandwich, which in those days was quite different to it is now. The whole city has been rebuilt. But when I went to Mount Paktu, we had a DPRK internal flight. We landed at Sandwich Airport, which is like in the middle of forest, and we went on buses to the Pegabong Hotel. And then we started off for Mount Paktu very early in the morning. I think we had to leave the hotel by 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and we just drove and drove through huge forests. Yeah, I hadn't seen anything like it. It was a bit like Scotland, I suppose. And then we had these sort of long. There was a long road going up Mount Pack, and then we had to walk for a bit, and we had a rally on top of Mount Pakdu, and we had a march. And in fact, this used to be, I've got the disc in my collection, but it used to be somewhere on YouTube. There was the video of the video of the trip to Mount Paktu, which used to be on the old KFA UK YouTube channel, which blooming YouTube went and deleted, and I think they deleted the other channel it's on. I have to see if I can find it. But yeah, I mean, it's a real experience going up to up Mount Pact, and also seeing the birthplace of Chairman Kim Jong Il in the log cabin. It was an incredible experience, and the whole area is incredible. It's all forests and mountains. It's like I say, it's a bit like Scotland, only better. I see. Yes, you can't force people to have fun. I mean, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, there is so much anti-DPRK trash on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and it's all been funded, and people have been also funded to troll our pages, etc. Okay. Well, well, yeah. Sorry about mispronouncing that name. British people always do things like that, and mispronounce names from other countries is a bad fault of being British. So it's Zhadanov. See, I'll have to practice saying that. But anyway, the bloke who was Stalin's designated successor, who died in mysterious circumstances, I believe that he was bumped off by counter-revolutionaries, and he wrote a very good book about cosmopolitanism, which is a very good book, and President Kim Il Sung also referred to his theories. Well, yeah. I mean, say, that my experience was manufactured. Yeah, I'm a real person. Uh, you know, an elderly British person of Celtic descent. Not. So I'm quite real, and let's try and deconstruct this idea. Really, I've heard these stories before. In fact, some buffoons have said, like, uh, basically, the people we see in the DPRK are actors and actresses. That the hospitals are run by actors. Like, this is what that fool Rupert Wingfield Hayes tried to say that it was actors in the hospital. The children weren't sick. How would he know? Uh, is he a doctor? Does he have children himself? And this is quite silly. But really, are we that important that they would put on a show for us and have a facade? Surely the amount of resources they would have to spend on that would be huge. People who keep saying, "Oh, but it was all a show." That are they that it is that important that the DPRK would put on a show for them? In terms of seeing what we want to see. If you go on an official delegation, it is very different to being a tourist, and uh, you can have some negotiation over your itinerary. You can ask to see things. Uh, I asked to see farms, and I saw farms. I saw the Sunan cooperative farm twice. I saw uh, the Mygok cooperative farm, for example. I've been around lots of factories in the DPRK. I've been to the Kim Jong Suk textile mill. I've been to the Diane heavy machinery complex. They there you are. You can ask to see different places, and you do see a lot of the. You can see a lot of the countryside. I mean, I personally, I've travelled twice on the train from Pyongyang to Beijing, so I've seen loads of the countryside, and without a guide as well. Travelling on the train. which of course is takes a lot longer than a plane, but is a bit cheaper. So I've seen uh, many things, and I think overall, uh, you have to think about these kind of things, and I've the DPRK is not a massive country. It's not the size of the old Soviet Union, where they could actually shut off whole areas of the Soviet Union that were the size of Britain. Uh, DPRK is a small country, so you can't hide things away very easily. Uh, you know, so I mean that is my answer to that. Right, just make sure I haven't missed. Well, in answer to username, I don't think there's any contradiction between self-sufficiency and internationalism. Uh, by by carrying out the revolution successfully in your own country, uh, by establishing independence and self-sufficiency, you actually make a good contribution to the world revolution. And in a work written in 1962, President Kim Il Sung actually deals with this question, where the Soviet revisionists had accused the DPRK of quote unquote nationalism, but President Kim Il Sung pointed out that you know a few years before, the DPRK had attained self-sufficiency in food, or in grain, I should say. And this lessened the burdens on other socialist countries and actually made a big contribution to the socialist camp, strengthening the socialist camp. So there's no contradiction between the two. Well, I mean, I personally, it was always a wonderful slogan, a united world socialist republic. Uh, but that's what it is, a slogan, not something very realizable or practical. And if I dare say, also a bit Trotskyite as well. This was the Trotskyite concept that revolutions would take place simultaneously in all countries of the world, disregarding different levels of development, different levels of culture. And yeah, basically, at the end of the day, there are different levels of development. There's different cultures, and so uh, this would be something unrealizable, basically, except in the very long term, when uh, you know national inequalities would be eliminated. But you can't do that by simply trying to merge all countries into a world socialist republic. Yes, General Nam Il was one of the main commanders in the Fatherland Liberation War. Right. Okay. During the negotiations in the year 2000 with South Korea, led by Kim Jong Il, did you have back then positive expectations about the Korean talks? Now that's an interesting question, and the answer is yeah. On one level, I tried to be positive about the talks, hoping they would lead to peace. But on the other hand, uh, I felt a bit worried about them because I thought, South Korea basically wants to introduce capitalism in the DPRK, and that I think it was always the danger with inter-Korean exchanges that the South Korean puppets would try to blow the wind of capitalism into the DPRK through inter-Korean exchange. So, on the one hand, I felt positive, but on the other hand, I felt a bit uneasy. And yeah, I think the DPRK is doing the correct thing by deciding not to enter into the negotiation or dialogue with the South Korean puppets. Yes, interesting about the US. Hello, Tempest YT8. Yeah, well, as I say, there's so much ridiculous uh, propaganda, and I've sadly heard some people have been to the DPRK say, "Oh, it was all actors," they weren't real doctors in the hospital. Yeah, well, it'd make absolutely no sense for the DPRK to build huge empty buildings. It's just ridiculous. And I remember, the hotel I stayed in, the Corio Hotel. In fact, there are residential blocks on the opposite side of the road, and you definitely saw people coming in and out, in and out. It's quite silly thing to say. And of course, ironic because in the capitalist world, you have buildings left empty by property speculators, and although a lot of the audience here are very, very young, uh, I'm old enough to remember back in the 70s, there was a huge building in central London. It's still there now, I think. It's called Centre Point. Uh, it's near Tottenham Court Road Tube Station, and it caused a scandal because it was left empty for a long time because this property speculator deliberately left it empty, because he wanted to be able to get a very high rent for it. And you do have empty buildings, a lot of empty buildings. So it's a bit silly and ironic that they're saying this about the DPRK. Right, a troll. Let's get rid of him. Yeah, silly. There you are. That's right. People who slurp up every obvious piece of propaganda from their own government and call us brainwashed for washed. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, that's right. That's a good subject to bring up. Yes, FAD, the terminal high altitude aerial defense system, and Patriot missiles being moved out of South Korea, and the South Korean public's getting upset and panicking over this. Just shows how weak and dependent South Korea is, and how fictitious the so-called threat from the DPRK is. It's not it's not real. Uh, and it also shows that the US is not winning the war in Iran. That they are not doing well. Dear Dr. Hudson, what do you think? Dear Dr. Hudson, what are your thoughts about the DPRK as the current culture centre where all of us human beings would love to approach, but capitalism hinders in a very wife way? I think doesn't look right. Perhaps you could put that again. Yeah, just trying to work out what the question is. DPRK, yes, well, DPRK is a sort of cultural. Is the uh, is a centre of culture. It's a beacon of hope uh, for humanity. It is the leading socialist country upholding socialism. I assume you mean yes, travel. Yes, well, travel to the DPRK is very expensive. Right. Well, in terms uh, of tourism, I think the DPRK will open up to tourists. I can't say when, and as I say, I think the current international situation means that the DPRK is having to tighten security. Uh, so, I think my guess is that tourism will be uh, back in full swing once the international situation calms down. Uh, that probably they will start letting Russian and Chinese tourists in. Yes, the Juche Tower is the light beacon of hope. It is a bright red torch illuminating the way for humanity. Okay, I'll just wait a few minutes if there's any other questions, and then we call it a day to see if anybody wants to ask anything else. Yeah, I don't want to sort of stop other people. from asking a few questions. In the meantime, while I wait for questions, and I say sometimes the chat is slow and lags behind. Uh, just talk about our program of events. I mean, tomorrow we got an online meeting on Juche. That'd be about the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party Korea. And speak in a lot more detail about it. We've got a reading session on March 17th, and we're tentatively considering holding a real life meeting on the 11th of April, but we've got to look at availability of venues, and we've also got make sure there isn't like Iran stuff and Palestine stuff going on the same day. But we're interested in exploring the theme of the superiority and durability of Juche-based socialism, because Trotskyites have been claiming that because of the what's happening in Cuba, that you can't build socialism in one country, or you can't build socialism in a small country, because the DPRK totally disproves that argument. For you, I'm longing, I swear, because what you got is what the world needs, and the US is really not a good country written for the DPRK. Yes, I agree. What is the DPRK's view on the works of Mao Zedong? Some of his theoretical works were published in the USSR during Stalin's time, and were in line with the works of Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, although during Nixon might be different. Well, the DPRK basically appraises Chairman Mao as a great leader of the Chinese Revolution and of the Chinese people, but they haven't made any sort of judgment or analysis of the theoretical works of Mao, because they have their own idea, the Juche idea. But they uphold all those leaders who made a great contribution to the international communist movement and the socialist cause. Well, to Tempest YTA, the problem is your government has banned American citizens from visiting the DPRK, so that is a very big problem. And I don't think that ban is going to be lifted anytime soon either. Right. Okay. Well, I think we're approaching the end. Just take one last question. Okay. Right. So there's no further questions. So I think we'll call it a done. Oh, wait a minute. Right. Oh no, that's those are comments. Yeah, it's ridiculous, the reasoning that the US government gives. Is not for the safety of US citizens, it's to stop US people seeing the truth about people's career. It's as simple as that. Anyway, questions. Greg's nationalised. Do you mean Greg's with 2 G's? Yes, you do. Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea if they nationalise Greg's and reduce the price of sausage rolls. That's a task for a future socialist government in Britain. No, well, you're very welcome, comrade, and also nothing but the truth. You're also very welcome. So anyway, I wish everybody a very good evening, and I hope to be back in 2 weeks' time. But between then and now, I think I'll make a few videos, take up maybe one or two of the subjects that people have suggested, like one on my PhD, and I say, meaning to do this a video about Juche and national liberation. Anyway, thank everybody for being here tonight, and wish everybody a very good evening or afternoon if you're in other countries, or maybe it's morning in some places already. Okay, so goodbye everybody.